Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So, people don't think about this aspect of a controlling system, the people I call the controllers, right? The people who control pretty much everything in the material world. And so, if there's a battle between all of us, the people who are, you know, not just truthers, but people who are kind of aware of this, good people versus the evil people, the people that control the system. Again, that's not the way I think about it, but just the way everyone else does. But if there was a battle, they have everything, right? They control all the assets, much like the Palestinian people versus the Israelis, right? The Israelis have military, air force, navy, the backing of a major, the number one major superpower in America, billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars of resources at their disposal, and Palestinians have rocks, right? So it's that kind of a situation. And in terms of the controllers, they control the food supply, they control the money, they control the military, they control the police, they control the media, they control the government, right? All these things. And they have access to information that we don't have. They have access to knowledge, whether it be about aliens or be about the real creation of human beings or any number of these things, right? The true history of humanity and what we're about and how we got here and various other levels of this kind of information. And when you stumble upon this information, more truthful information, they, immediately find ways to make you doubt it, or they attack you, or if you try to make it public, these types of things. And so they control the information, which is a huge advantage. The other asset they have is they control the sheeple. They control, 80%, 70% of the population. In whatever breakdown, they control those people. They control people in the truth community. They wind them up. They put disinformation out there. They pit people against each other, a binary system. They have psychological operations and all these things to go with all these other, to run through their other assets, the intelligence community and the government, all these things. So they have all these assets. I'm just listing the big ones, right? But it's pretty much everything. They control everything. And what do we have? What do you have, in terms of resources, in terms of ability? So in terms of a battle, like people think of a battle of good and evil, it's an absolute no contest, right? There's just no way. There's nothing that any of us can do collectively other than to form some, mindless mob and just go after what we can get, like whoever we can get. Like some people will escape. Like we could form a mindless mob and just go and destroy the system, burn it down, go after as many controllers as we can identify. And if you think about revolutions like the French Revolution or, what happened in China when the communists took over, it's not better. It doesn't get better because the people who, you can get really angry and you can go and behead a king or, kill a queen or something like this. You can destroy it, but you can't want it. You can't build it back up, right? You can destroy a system, but that leaves you without a system. And as bad as a system is, it's better than chaos, right? And so, with all this, the fact that there's not really there's not anything that we can do. You can, put a few people in jail. They can feed you something, right? They can, they can give you a patsy here or there. The controllers make you feel like, there's justice or something like that. But there's nothing you can do, right? There's zero. There's nothing that people can do to get out from under this controlling system. You watch movies and against all odds, you see guys saving the world time and time again, the underdog winning, these type of things. This false idea of there's some corrupt system and some guy comes in and a group of people, Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible kind of thing, and they find a way to get it done. But, in real life, that doesn't happen. And so, then what becomes the point, right? What's the only resource that we have that they don't have? and that's God and God's will. My wife just called me, and she's listened to my video where I'm talking about the, just to get off track here for a second, about, circumcision, right? And, there's these weird Bible quotes, and one of them was, you can't get into the house of the Lord. Again, I'm not quoting it directly. If your penis has been cut, if you've been circumcised, or you're not circumcised, if you have been castrated either by knife or by, by blunt object or whatever it was, right? I'm butchering the quote. Here, I got the direct one. No one who has been emasculated by crushing or cutting may enter the assembly of the Lord. And I went on the whole thing about, hey, if your dick's been smushed, you don't get in. I had this whole thing, and my wife's like laughing. She was listening to it yesterday, and she is doing it again today, this morning. And she had said to me this morning, let me just do this here, and I'll come back. She asked. She said you should search out how many times circumcision is mentioned in the Bible, and it's mentioned over 80 times. And then, just the word itself, there might be derivatives like David taking all the foreskins of the Philistines to get married, that kind of weird shit, right? Anyways, so there's all that kind of weirdness. Again, the indoctrination, that's another thing. Self-inflicted pain and suffering and undermining people's ability to live their soul's path and find out why they're here and their true purpose based in the functionality of the system, and warping you from the time that you're born with all this weird shit, and indoctrinating you into bullshit, the things that are not only not true, but they undermine your ability to realize your full potential and beat you down and get you addicted to the system and the rest of it, right? They have addictions and all these things at their disposal. And so with all of that, going back to what I was saying, they are not aligned with God's will. And so we don't have to, as a people, defeat the controllers. Well, let me just say this. And I covered this in my book, The Choice. There is 80% of the people who are just, they can go either way. And you have 10% of the people that are like saints, higher developed souls that are working to guide humanity to a higher level. Evolved souls that have been around longer, some souls that are coming from a, closer proximity to God, that are more evolved on a soul level, spiritual level. And then you have 10% of the people who are just deviant. They're warped in some way. Sometimes villains are actually saints. And so I'm not counting them. I'm not counting souls that come in and just do, work that God wants them to do, or they do some kind of destructive work, or they play the role of a villain in some divine drama, but they're really higher developed souls. So we're not talking about those particular souls that play a villain in life, or seem to be on the wrong side of things, but they're serving a divine purpose. What I'm talking about here is the so-called fallen. Anyways, this is going to be this will be the introduction to the 232nd edition of the Journey series. This will be A. I put them A, B, C, D. But in terms of the people I call the fallen, these people I'm calling the fallen, these are, people that are broken and twisted in some way and work against the will of God and are in this pattern of behavior, either from some other place or from past lives or whatever. And they work to collectively undermine the divine will. And so the other 80%, they will either gravitate towards the good, the pure, or, they will dabble in the fallen stuff, like the demented stuff, people will just do naughty things, right? Maybe with a lot more innocence and a lot less consciousness of what they're doing. And so in the history of the world, whether it's, civilizations, for the most part, people will tend towards the good things. They'll dabble in the some of the evil stuff, but for the most part, they'll uphold, some level of dharma, duty, some level of devotion to God, just civilization, tribal civilizations, these type of things, whatever it is, villages. And these 10% of the fallen are always trying to get in and, undermine that and take control and grab power. And every once in a while, the fallen just grab all the power. They somehow, they have a system and then they undermine everything. The fallen get caught and get killed and get banished, for years. They're, people who are aware, people who are more conscious or whatever. But when they're able to dumb the people down with television, like in this case, and, all the other things at their disposal, and they can start blurring the lines, of what's good and what's evil, and, introduce depravity and, it's your freedom of choice and all these things. And, this idea of, that there needs to be a discipline, and why should there be discipline, and we should just be able to do whatever we want, and these things. This kind of demonic liberalism where there's a lack of, any sort of rules and any kind of things that, we're just not supposed to shame anybody, this kind of thing. It's just, allow it. There's deviance is just okay. It's normal. These are within the range of normal behaviors. They try to normalize their sociopathic nature and these things, and get all the 80%, or at least some big portion of them, to buy into this, and then they just glom all the power, like this happened now. And then there has to be a contingency. Like, why isn't this going to go on forever? Why wouldn't this depravity just last through the history of the earth? They grab this power. They control everything, right? There's a great quote my brother told me about Master Chargy, the third master of the Sajmark system. And, he had at his disposal all the powers of a realized soul, which is immense power. Like, could just rearrange everything on the earth with a mere thought, right? But only if God said, this was a divine order. You can't just use it because you see something, you read something, you get upset about it, and you use your will to change something, right? Everything has to run its course, and things are, we have to allow this thing to play out and run its course. Like it's like a disease has affected humanity, psychological disease, a virus, depraved, demented, whatever it is. And it has to play itself out. Like there's a course here. There's a series of steps, and humanity has to go through something now because of our, misbegotten deeds, are going on a wayward path. And there are consequences that have to be endured. And so you don't do this thing again, right? Where there has to be a collective understanding that is, woven into our genetic fabric in the future, and our spiritual, every soul that is born is aware of, like, yeah, you don't do this. This is why you don't do this, right? Like there has to be some kind of, oh yeah, this is what happens. This is the consequences. This is the ultimate end of embracing this kind of, consciousness and these things, right? And so he was asked by some woman that she said, why would God allow all these things to happen? And he said, wait, you think God's running things here? You think God's doing this? You think this is God? What God is? This is our choices. Is what people are doing, right? They're people controlling the system, and so has to be contingencies in the divine plan when you give people the ability to do wrong, which not just a little bit of wrong, but a lot of wrong. Like you give them, one right choice, and you give them an infinite amount of wrong choices, and some of those wrong choices are very appealing. In every circumstance, you have the divine choice. I mean, on a daily basis, you have the divine choice, and then you have all the other choices at your disposal, and some of them are very alluring, very pleasurable, very enticing, specifically to your particular, your how you're wired and things like this. And so people are going to choose to do the wrong thing, right? It's just there, and some of it's just kind of figuring things out. Like, just, it comes from a place of innocence where you indulge in some things, right? And it's like, you have pain sensors, like, you touch something hot and you go, wow, that hurts. I won't do that again, right? And so you're learning what to do and what to not to do through observation and through experience, and, a soul that comes in innocent, and a world full of, I want to call it temptation, but temptation, world full of temptation of things that are, not good for you, and whatever it is, or there's consequences for your behavior, right? You learn, you say certain things to people, you feel like, oh wow, you really hurt the person's feelings, and you realize you have to change a little bit, like the way that you express yourself to other people, right? When you're a little brat, you're some little snot-nosed brat who's, 3-year-old kid, you have to learn, how to behave in a way that's function as society, where you're not, just having tantrums all the time, all these things, just the way people are. You have to evolve. And you think about, like, when you were younger and you did stupid shit and you didn't know better, and you had to learn through, whatever pain and suffering you went through to become a better person. And hopefully that's happening for everybody, where you're evolving in some way and you're refining your way that you present yourself, your interactions, and things like this. But there are souls that reject the feedback. They do something wrong and they get consequenced, and they don't change their behavior. They say, how can we negate the consequences? How can we could stop the divine will, the consequences, the pain, the suffering, the whatever it is, what can we do to do that? And, building a system of illusion, and there's various ways. You see it all around us. They find a way to negate this, and, the lies, repeating the lies over and over again, the illusion. They find a way to sort of temporarily negate the consequences for their behavior. But they know the consequences are coming. And you know how we can tell that they know the consequences are coming? Because with all of these things at their disposal, all the lists of things that I said in the beginning of this video, and all the things that I didn't say, that are all their tools, all their assets, all their things they had at their disposal, they're still paranoid as fuck, right? They're still freaked out and know that the end of their system is coming. They still have to control everything, even when they have a winning line. In chess, you have this thing called the winning line, where both chess players see that the guy's going to win. They both know. And then one person, the loser, will tip their king so they don't have to play it out, because they know what's going to happen. They know the sequence of events that's going to lead to their being checkmated, right? And so, they have this winning line. They have this, how can they be defeated? How can the people that control the system be defeated generationally? Not even, in multiple lifetimes and generations. How could they lose with all the fucking power at their disposal? And yet they're freaked the fuck out all the time. And they're finding new ways to control, and new ways to spy on you, and new ways to manipulate you, and new psychological operations. Everything that's there, the internet, they have to find a way to control that, this, all these things that they do. And they're still, they go to bed and they don't sleep at night, right? Because deep down, and, they have access to knowledge that the rest of us don't have, in terms of, controller knowledge, like Freemasonic shit or whatever it is, right? Illuminati, whatever secret society bullshit that they don't, they give you shit like Darwin's theory of evolution, and then they have the actual stories and things, the actual, they have the inside information. But even with all of those things, they know that God's will endure, that at some point that they can't, avoid the inevitable consequences. And that always comes from them shooting themselves in the foot, that they will self-sabotage, they will destroy themselves. And, with it, everything else, they'll take the system down. The system will, like I said before, will die of its own depravity. When you go against God's will, all systems die. Even the systems that are purest system, and with the best people, you have a society full of saints. All civilizations inevitably end. It's just something that happens. It has to happen. At some point, there won't be life on planet Earth in terms of physical, biological life, but there'll be spirit, there'll be souls. There's spiritual energy, spiritual beings on every planet, Earth included, but these planets that are uninhabitable, there are divine, spiritual essences that are associated with these planets and things like that exist in etheric form. And so there's the etheric life, the life of the soul, life without a physical body. And so inevitably, God's will is done. Everything gets restored. Dharma is restored, as it is said in the Mahabharata, right? Speaking of the Mahabharata, there was Krishna, the character of Krishna. And people, think about Hare Krishna, and they don't know what Krishna was. Now, Krishna was one of the many incarnations of the god of preservation, the cosmic functionary of preservation, the divine soul that's in charge of the maintenance part, right? There's creation and there's destruction, and in between there's maintenance. There's the preservation of something, right? There's the life of everything, and there's a soul that's in charge of it. There's a soul in charge of creation that the Hindus call Brahma, right? It could be any, that's just the name that they give it. And there is a soul in charge of destruction, and that's called Vishnu, but it's not a religious thing. It's a true thing, right? There has to be a consciousness. There's a consciousness that surrounds death, right? There's a soul that is always present, a soul that is always with every creature when it physically dies, right? We call that soul the Grim Reaper, and the Grim Reaper is, considered a kind of a villainous character, but it's not, right? Things have to die, we have to die, and there has to be a soul that's responsible for the transition of your soul from death to wherever you're going next, right? So there's a soul that's with you. That's it's a really important job, right? Like there's and you think about like vultures and crows and these creatures and all these kind of things that are associated with these kind of transition, and they're considered bad things, but it's a very important role that's what's necessary for all of us. And the soul is called Yama in Hinduism, the Grim Reaper. Various cultures have different names for this soul, but it's the name isn't important because it's not, it has its own spiritual identity. And so Vishnu isn't a Hindu god. Vishnu is a soul that affects everybody. We're all interacting with creation, Brahma. We can call it whatever we want. The god of creation. We can call the divine being that's in charge of creation. We are creating things all the time, and we're destroying things all the time, or things that are being destroyed. And we can call it Shiva, or we can call it some other soul. But there's soul, and then there's Vishnu in between. That's kind of the most important one, because most things have a long. There's the creation is a short-lived thing, and the destruction is a short-lived thing, but the preservation is is a longer time period. And Vishnu incarnated as Krishna, and Vishnu always comes down with Vishnu has an ego and a soul. There's this idea of a soul splitting up into two different people. Like there's this thing that happens where soul incarnates as two different people, and that can happen. There was a Buddha where they have a way of identifying the Buddha, and they found a Buddha that was three different kids. The soul had incarnated in three different parts of the world. Like one was in America, like in Seattle, and these other things, right? But they have a way of finding and identify the soul of the Buddha, right? So, but Vishnu had two aspects, Narayana and Nara. And Nara is the ego, and Narayana is the soul. And he incarnated as Krishna as Narayana, and then his ego was Arjuna, and Arjuna was the main archer, the best warrior of the Pandavas, the five brothers who were the heroes of this Mahabharata. And Krishna and Arjuna were best friends because of this, right? Because there was this element. And Krishna's always teaching Arjuna things, like the soul's always teaching the ego something. But there was going to be the battle, the war, and there is and it's hard for me to pronounce these names. It's just there are accents on the wrong syllable, right? The syllable, they have a different way of pronouncing these words. The Hindu, the people in India, I guess it would be people who speak Hindu. Like they might say Arjuna, right? So, and we all say no Krishna because we know the word Krishna. But there was this villain named Duryodhana who's the cousin. He had like 199 brothers, right? And they're the villains. And Duryodhana and Arjuna come to ask Krishna for his army. And Krishna had this army called the Yadavas. And they were the kick-ass army. They were the best army in the world. They were made basically indestructible. And Krishna had this disc, It was some sort of cosmic disc that he could use that was like a, like a cosmic frisbee, and would go and just cut off everybody's heads. And he had these powers, like he lifted a mountain. He had all these divine powers, right? Because he was a, highly developed spiritual being, and he had all these, powers that would make it impossible. Whoever side he was on would win the war, right? So Arjuna and Duryodhana show up to ask for his assistance to get him on their side, right? Again, these are cousins that are going to have this epic battle, this war. And the Duryodhana gets there first. And so, Krishna's whatever he's doing, and they come to be with him, to ask him. And Duryodhana goes, I got here first. And Krishna says, well, I saw Arjuna first. So you got here first, but I saw him first. So I'm going to help both of you. What I'm going to do is I will give one of you guys my army to use, and the other one I'm not going to fight in the war, but I'll drive the chariot. I'll do something. Whatever it was. And he goes, so Duryodhana, what do you want? And Duryodhana goes, I want your army. He's like, holy shit! You can't forgive me. I'll go take your army. You're not going to fight. You're not going to use your power. So I'll take the army, right? And he goes, all right, Arjuna, I'll drive your chariot. Arjuna will have Krishna driving his chariot. And Duryodhana leaves like he's won the fucking war. He's like all happy because he thinks he's got this, these power that I'm talking about here with the people called the controllers. Like he has the kick-ass army. He's already got a bunch of assets. He's already in a winning position. And he has, he has more, he has just all these things. He's got some of these really important people, some of the teachers, some of the old, the uncle, the old sort of wise guy, the wise uncle. Like he's got a bunch of people on his side who are like divine beings who are, just on the wrong side of this thing. And he thinks he's got all the assets, right? But Krishna represents God, right? So God's on, you have whether have God's army or God, right? And so like he's stupid, he takes the army. And of course, the Pandavas end up winning the war because God's on their side. So what I'm talking about here is an inevitability, right? That this system and the people that control it, it somehow will be erased. It just, you can't fight time, right? Time is undefeated, right? So you can't fight the inevitability of destruction and creation and something else being born. Something dying and then something else being created. And the seeds of their defeat are already, in place. The people that control the system, it's already there. And, it's within them more than anything else. But it's in all of us. Like we're all a part of it. People think about the controllers and the system, but, we're all, a part of that system. I mean, even I was talking about circumcision, right? And it's genital mutilation. And it's being done to babies, male babies. I mean, certainly in America more than anywhere else, unnecessarily. And it has an effect on you. Like it's just part of the indoctrination. It has an effect on you. Like you would be a different person if you weren't circumcised. If you didn't have that trauma when you were a kid. And you didn't live in a system that was doing shit like that to kids. And just, I've talked about it extensively in some of these other videos. But, it's an act of abuse. And, we have a lot of that warps you as a person. And it habituates you to the system. And so, like, you can't imagine living outside of the system. And, there are good things in the system, pleasurable things, comforts, whatever. Things in the system that, we would have trouble living without. And so it's everybody. Like, everybody's going to suffer when the system comes down. All of us will have to adjust and change and, depending on when it happens, and somebody's going to get stuck with it, right? Someone's going to get stuck with the bill, some generation of people, and then people are going to get stuck with cleaning up the mess. And and it's also divine work. It's work that has to be done, and it's just all these things are inevitable. So there's no real battle between the good people and the bad people. Like that battle's already been lost when the good people took power. I mean, the bad people took power. And so that battle was lost years ago. And so, that's not what the battle's about. Now it's just the inevitable collapse that happens when people do wrong shit and create a system, a depraved system that goes against God's will. that doesn't align itself with divinity. And when that system collapses, then there's the, redemption moment where people were like, oh, we fucked up. We got to build this better. And we can't let this happen again. And, and hopefully that'll stick. So, that'll hold up. All right. So, bunch of things to get to today. Let's get into it. Okay. Not so fast. I just looked at my phone. I took some notes. These ideas came to me last night. And I wanted to end this, and I forgot about this, and I looked at my phone, and I said, oh, everyone should ask themselves this question. Like, if they were able to get 100% convinced that there was no soul, if there was no God, because this was part of what I was going to say. If there was no God, then the controllers would have, they won. Like, this is it. There's no, there's no way to redeem this thing. There was the first season of Survivor. And in Survivor, there was one group of people, they had equal numbers. And the one group thought it was about surviving. It was about, enduring the whole, all of it. The physical, grueling part of being stranded on an island with limited resources. Being like naked and afraid kind of stuff. And the other group realized it was about alliances and politics. And that group picked off the people one by one and voted for specific people on the other tribe. And then that tribe was gone, and then they turned on each other, and somebody won. That one dude, Richard something, whatever Hatch was it. And then every other Survivor, it was just about that. Like, that was how Survivor went. It has gone ever since. It's about manipulation and lies and deceit and these things. And so, once you start assassinating people, once you start doing diabolical things, before the Mob Brata, there was all these rules of engagement, and there was a level of decorum and all these things that you just wouldn't do. Like, they were, and if you did them, you'd just be killed and everyone would reject you. But all those rules were violated in the war. And that brought in the Kali Yuga, where we are now. And so, if there was no God, this is how it would be from now until eternity. We'd have a evil system that people would never learn to do the right thing because there's no reason to do the right thing. I mean, what would you live like if you realized that there was no soul and no God? Like, this is one of the questions people should ask. What if there was no soul or no God? What would you do? How would you change your life? And for many people, it wouldn't be at all, right? But it's a question people should ask. The other thing is, what if you had 100% proof that there is God and there is a soul? What would you do then? And again, it wouldn't be embrace your religion, because you'd realize your religion's full of shit, like that kind of thing. Where you realize that this is something more than what you were told when you were religion. But, if you experienced God and divinity within you, you would, what would you do then? How would you live your life? And, most people wouldn't be much of a change. And that's kind of the problem that we have now. But, each person has to ask themselves that question. Like, what would you do? Like, just, you could stop and think about this when you're done with the video or whatever, pause it, or, just how would that affect you if, like, you found out one or the other things, that there either is a God, there isn't a God, right? Anyways, I just want to conclude this with that. And let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of a flashback here. This is a scene from The Goonies, written by one Stephen J. Spielberg, and directed and produced by him and his company Amblin, which had a lot of weird sexual connotations in his movie. He made a movie called Amblin. Weird movie. So I covered this stuff before. You guys who have been around, let's watch a little bit of this, and I'll get back into this. But notice Sean Astin here with a inhaler because he's got asthma, and they just dropped this statue. And so for some reason, their parents have a statue of a guy with a penis. So, like, what kind of family? I don't know whose house they're in. I don't remember this movie. I remember it sucked. I mean, it was one of the, not that all these kids' movies sucked, but this one did. And one of these kids' parents has a statue with a naked guy standing there with his penis exposed. Like, what parent would have that? Like what parent, like this is part of the, whatever's going on here.
Not broken. It's perfect. It's perfect. Oh my God! What?
So he realizes that it's missing its penis. So he says, that's my mom, so it's his mom's house. So he's had this statue in his house. And he said, that's my mom's favorite piece of the statue, is the penis. Right? It's a weird fucking thing, right? Why would a kid think that? Why would a mom say, hey, look, this is a statue, and my favorite part is the penis of the statue, right? Like,
Oh my God!
it's an uncircumcised penis, and he's got it upside down. Like he's holding it, like with his hands here, like just fucking weird. Like Steven Spielberg wrote this scene, right? Steven Spielberg wrote a scene where they would have a close-up with a kid's hands on a adult male penis as part of a fucking kids movie, right? Like this isn't the only thing. There's weird stuff in E.T. I'll show you one scene with that. There's E.T.'s finger, which is glowing. It looks like a penis if you take the, just the outline of it. I showed that. I mean, I've made videos about this. So there was a period of time where I covered all these kind of things in Hollywood, like all the ways they sexualized kids, and they made depravity normal. Now we see it being done with Jeffrey Epstein in a political way, with Trump and the rest of this stuff that's going on. But, this is how they changed morality in America, by this is a subliminal thing along with just, it's here, it's supposed to be funny. Like, why is this happening, right? This is my mom's favorite piece, the penis. And he picks it up and he's got it, he's showing the thing. He's putting it in the wrong way and this stuff, right? And the way he's putting it, it's erect. Like it's supposed to, he's got it inverted.
It wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
So, he says, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't your favorite piece. This is Josh Brolin here, right? Young Josh Brolin wearing his cool frickin' bandana. And he says, this is, weird-ass Corey Feldman, who, claimed all this stuff about sexual abuse, but didn't say anything about Steven Spielberg. And then he's like, his imitation of Groucho Marx said, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't her favorite piece. Your mom would not have conceived you if she didn't like dick. That's what they just said. That's what Steven Spielberg said in this movie that's aimed towards kids. He's got creepy-ass Corey Feldman saying to the audience, hey, you kids, none of you guys would be here if your mom didn't like dick, right? So, and this is, uncircumcised here.
Shut up, mouth.
Shut up, mouth.
Shut up, mouth. Exactly. Take it in the mouth. I mean, this is, Another guy who plays Short Round, and his career has been revived recently with that sort of epic movie with Jamie Lee Curtis in it, Don't Tell Me, Don't Care, Don't Need to Know. But why they ask him a question, and these guys are fondling with a penis that, without glue, it ain't fucking going back on, right?
No. Sweet.
He's fondling the penis while, these guys are going about their business. So, his mom shows up. So she brings home a Spanish maid because her arm's fucked up. And she, needs somebody to translate. So Corey Feldman goes in there and translates and says, she's telling her, she wants him to tell her where to put all the clothes away. And he says the cocaine goes in the top drawer with the marijuana and the speed in the second drawer. Paraphrasing. So there, there's that. That's supposed to be funny. And then they show the ass of the statue here.
Look, how's that? Oh, you idiot! You put it on upside down.
Dork.
It's upside.
Do it that way, you'd all be pissing in your faces.
Exactly. It's pissing in your faces. It's upside down. So, you get it. So, I made these videos about how depraved Hollywood was, especially towards kids. I made so many videos about Full House and all the weird shit that went on there. Like, I can't even describe all of it. Like, I made long, 1-hour, 2-hour videos. It used to take me a day and a half, 2 days to put these things together back then, different times. But they were just, it's a horrific stuff. I probably made 10 videos just about Full House. And then Steven Spielberg had a lot of weird shit in his videos, right? And this is probably one of the weirdest. And it has to do with kids, right? And, he's glued the penis on upside down, this whole fucking thing. Just fucking weird. And why do that? Why put this in the scene? Like, this was, every scene in a movie is there for a reason. Like, it's part of the storyline. And so this isn't funny. It's weird. It's not fucking funny. Like, even as a kid. And so, why? Why does his mom have a statue? And given the way the statue was, if the penis was on properly, the guy drops it on the floor, and that's the only thing that breaks. There's a base on it, right? So, I mean, if it's not, there's a base on the thing that's holding the statue up, like a square base. And so, if it fell down, the penis wouldn't hit the ground, it wouldn't break off. It's just, I'm fucking, just contrived and shitty and just icky on every level. So this is from E.T. And there's a lot in this movie as well, creepy shit. Steven Spielberg had a obsession with, pedophilia pedo stuff in his movies. And so they're trying to explain to him, he thinks he saw an alien, and this guy, his brother's teasing him, and this is young Drew Barrymore before she got on drugs and, became so fucking weird. She was probably weird then. Remember, she went on the Johnny Carson show, and she was talking to Steven Spielberg. Hi, Steven, like really weird way. And I love Steven and list all this weird stuff. I'm not going to show you that, but I've covered this in other videos. It's there for people to see, but it's a weird fucking thing. And, she's like 5 years old, and she's like, she's talking about, I love you, Steven, this kind of weird shit. So this is the first piece. Wait, it goes back here.
Is a pervert or deformed kid or something.
Maybe it's a pervert or a deformed kid. Like he's saying maybe the ET is a pervert. Which, given the scene where he puts his finger out right in front of the kid's face and it looks like a penis, there's that. So his brother's laying into him here.
Rickon.
It was nothing like that, penis breath.
Elliot? It was nothing like that penis breath. Now, I grew up in this period of time. I don't know how old I was when this was going on. But penis breath was not something kids said. And it didn't catch on, right? It was some weird shit that Steven Spielberg put in there. That this young kid, that's what he knew as a name to say. And, it wasn't funny. It was weird. Like fucking weird, right? And you know how you get penis breath? Well, you put a penis in your mouth like these rabbis do with these with babies after they've had a circumcision. Or, oral sex and these things like Trump did with Bill Clinton. Trump could be called, so it's a weird thing to say for a kid. It wasn't a common saying, and it was just another way that Steven Spielberg was a depraved fuck, right? So, we're going to get back into some of this stuff with Jeffrey Epstein, Marjorie Taylor Greene, these things with Trump. So these things are all coming, down the pipe. But just keep these things in mind as this Jeffrey Epstein thing is happening. There has been a long history of degrading humanity. Like I said in the opening voiceover, to make depraved things normal. An overwhelming effort to, make things, especially for kids, to get them used to accepting things. I mean, we talk about the whole, the gender thing that happened with, all these things that have happened over the years. Recently, in 2015, all this weird sexual stuff with drag queens going to libraries and performing and dancing for kids, toddlers. I mean, just all these things. Ways to make things that are weird and, unnatural and abusive normal. So I'm kind of ahead of the game here. This video's not going up till Tuesday. Today's Sunday. I'm just going to cover a little bit of things today. I'm going to do a lot of work. It's a nice day, sunny. So we got another, 10 days of pretty good weather here. But I wanted to get into Marjorie Taylor Greene in a second, but let's start here with this guy.
We still don't know. Like, it's wild. This kid comes out of nowhere.
They're talking about Thomas Crooks.
Manages to get on the roof. Shoots President Trump. Fires 8 shots before anyone even remotely tries to bother him. Is able to fly a drone there for 10 or 20 minutes. Did recon multiple times throughout the day. had an operable IEDs in his car.
Okay, so it's because it's fucking fake, bro. Right, so the kid was walking around the place. He went through security holding a rangefinder. Somehow he got, again, they had security there and he had to go through it. And, people saw him go climb up on the roof. They saw him get up on the roof. The counter snipers could see him. He was like, they had him dead to rights. They could have taken him out at any time. He was up on the roof for 8 fucking minutes where they could see he had a rifle on the roof. And they didn't take him out until multiple shots were fired. Like they should have had the guy, they should have shot him immediately. And not even that, just get Trump out of here. They have communications, right? They're on the roof right behind Trump. It's fake. It was a WWE style fake fucking thing. They know nothing about this. This is a Tucker Carlson thing. Tucker Carlson's a piece of shit who said he was there and says, he gets into this thing. And, why wouldn't Trump be searching for this? Trump is suing the BBC right now. He sued all these media companies. He's going after people who criticized him, people who he had beef with, former employees and people that work for his administration. John Bolton, the Comey's going to trial. He's going on a whole vindictive rampage. Why wouldn't Trump go after everybody who was involved in this failure of security? Why wouldn't he talk about it all the time? Because there's a WWE's fake fucking ketchup gate bullshit thing. I have a whole playlist on this if you haven't seen it. Everything about this thing is fake. It's WWE stuff that Trump has done before because he's even, Vince McMahon and him were buddies, and Lisa McMahon, whatever it is, Amy McMahon, Linda McMahon, I think it is head of the education department. She calls AI A1. Like she's like fucking totally clueless. And so, he's a WWE style president, and this is fake as fuck, and Tucker Carlson sucks. The answer is it's fake. That's the answer to your question. And this guy's a patsy. Probably doesn't even exist as a person. They threw some corpse up on the fucking roof, or whatever, however this thing went down, it was fake.
And we still know basically nothing about him. It's crazy. So America First.
It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. We know nothing about it. It's just fucking crazy. No, it's not crazy. It's a fucking patsy. My dogs are looking at me. It's not crazy. Fucking not crazy, bro. The guy's a patsy and the thing's fake as fuck, right? This guy, look at him, so intense. I don't know what could be. I don't know where this is going, right? What is it? Like he's all serious. Tucker Carlson said he was there and he saw the fucking vent and all the stuff. The ketchup streaming from dried on Trump's face as he mouthed the words, fight, 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 as he was finding his shoes. It was fake as fuck. That's what the answer is here. The answer is it's fake as fuck.
And parents really didn't know much about their own son.
Yeah, they knew he was a patsy though, right? They knew he was a patsy and they was involved in this fake fucking thing. They knew that, right? They knew that part. Like, it's like putting it. He's talking about all the things that he found. He's a really good student. He's really smart. He got all A's, but no one really knew anything about him. There's nothing there. It's just like he's like almost like doesn't exist. Like he's kind of like a fictional character. I don't even know what's going on here. This is the best part here.
Their own son. Like, yeah, I think either the mom or the dad at the point asked, "Are you gay? Like, you're not dating anyone? What's going on?" Like,
are you gay, son? Are you gay, son? My dead Patsy's son is gay. There's that movie, The Heathers. I love my gay dead son. Remember they killed these guys and they put them in gay positions. They stripped them. These like guys who weren't gay. And remember that there's an old movie called Heathers, and there's a pastor and he gets up there. I love my dead gay son. Like just fucking weird, right? If he's a Republican, yeah, he's gay because these guys all, these fake Republicans. And I've been covering, if he's TPUS gay, then sure, that happened.
They don't even know kind of what's going on there.
Jesus Christ. They just don't know what's going on in there, under there, and there, or where. What's going on with this guy? I don't even know. He's not dating anybody. We don't know. He doesn't say anything. It's almost like he's just going to be a patsy his whole life. So they get into the FBI is withholding information, right? That the FBI, when they interview people, they don't have to do a transcript. They can just do a synopsis of what they think the person said, and then submit that as evidence. And they can make this excuse it's an ongoing investigation, which is not a real thing, which we know. But this kid's dead. And that they haven't handed over all their information to the House of Representatives. And so why would Trump allow any of that when he's in charge of the FBI? Why would Kash Patel, this is Kash Patel's FBI, right? So he says all these things about the FBI is withholding information. Why would they do that when we know Kash Patel's doing the same thing with Charlie Kirk? And they're supposed to be, Trumpers. And this guy went after Trump, and somehow the FBI is protecting somebody, and it's got to be Trump because, they're not all about Trump being shot, right? And then this is what Tucker Carlson says.
So we
literally don't know.
We know nothing about this kid.
No, we don't know who he was.
Yeah. So if the FBI knows, and these people have investigated this thoroughly, and you guys don't have any of the information, it's fake. It's a patsy. It's fake. Fucking move on. Like, just admit it. Just admit you fucking Trump's a piece of shit. There's another one of his fake fucking, fooling his own people, his own audience, taking advantage of them. This is what Trump does. This is who he is. It's fake as fuck, right? Okay, so I'm going to get into, I got like 4 videos on Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump feud. And this video popped up for this guy, Dave Smith. He did a good job in the debate against Josh Hammer. He's a Jewish comedian who's very aggressively against Israel. Or whatever, Israel's current state of, whatever it's doing there in Gaza and the rest of it, right? And he has this podcast, and he had some other comedians there, and he was basically the premise of his show was maybe it's time to say that Donald Trump is a piece of shit too, right? Like, all those of us who supported him, those of us who had hope, that we realize he fucked us just like the rest of these politicians. And, I don't know to what degree these people in the show are shills. Like, I don't know what their, what's organically their opinion and what's stuff that they have to say. Like, I don't know any of that stuff. Like, there's no way to know completely other than when they're, being a complete shill like Tucker Carlson is on Trump and these, other people. Dave Smith is barely in the show. And so I do know that average people who think Trump was ever going to be the guy that they thought Trump was, right, that he was going to save them. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that's what you were able to be sold. Because I knew Trump was a piece of shit. I knew the kind of person he was. The sense of the guy. I had a sense of the guy. That's what you get when you have some ability to read people. And Trump wasn't hard to read. The person that he was on The Apprentice and the person he was all the time before then, you knew he was a selfish prick. I mean, he was literally saying, I'm a selfish prick. I'm a narcissistic, selfish prick. That's what, when he ran for president, I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Because I knew exactly the kind of guy Trump was from watching The Apprentice. And then when you saw him initially, I mean, he was just a gaudy motherfucker. So first of all, there's something that everyone should have known. There's no reason, there's no excuse for not knowing this. So there's 2 things that Trump does. One, Trump is the most braggadocious motherfucker out there. He's constantly bragging. And people who brag are, number 1, selfish, and number 2, insecure. Like there's some kind of dialogue inside of them that says they're an evil piece of shit. And they're trying to externalize that, the answer to that dialogue by bragging, right? Like there's something inside of them. A lot of these people who are super successful, outwardly are very, they feel like they're a piece of shit internally. And so, they brag and they cover it up because it's called narcissistic wounding. And I don't expect everyone to know that. But I think people who brag are very selfish, right? Like I think everybody knows that. People who brag are also narcissistic. And Trump is very narcissistic. You can just see it. The other thing is Trump, if you see his apartment, like there's this great scene, I've covered it here. And so I think it's the first season of Apprentice. And there's a team of, I think, women's team versus men's team. I'm not sure if that's how they did it. But the women, it was mostly women. I think it was all women. Got to go up to Trump's gaudy fucking penthouse with all the gold and all the fucking bling. You know, rappers used to worship Trump for his bling. You know, I drove through Texas, going to one of my spiritual gatherings, and they had these gas stations on the side of the highway that were lit up like you could probably see them from fucking Mars, right? Like they were, I mean, so much fucking neon lights and shit. You know, that's Trump kind of stuff, right? Gaudy, fucking, everybody look at me, you know, nouveau riche types of bullshit. And these women go into the penthouse, and Melania comes out. It's the first time like I ever saw her or him. We'll get into that with the first ladies in a bit, but Melania comes out, and they go, "Oh, you're so lucky," and she goes, "He's not lucky." It's a great moment. Like I've showed it here before. It's a hilarious moment. But people who are like full of like have to wear lots of gaudy jewelry. I mean, the Erica Kirk stuff. You know, people who are very. There's a couple of different kind of personalities disorders, and one's called the histrionic personality disorder. You know, there's a borderline personality disorder. There's a narcissistic personality disorder, and histrionic people will dress in outfits that you have to look at them, like they stand out. Everybody look at me, or they'll wear almost no clothes at all, and they're histrionic. You know, they're very theatrical, and they're constantly causing drama and being loud, talking louder than other people. Everybody look at me, and Donald Trump is one of those people that's so self-involved. And with all of his wealth and all his, pretend wealth and all that shit, all that gaudy shit and the private planes, any person who's like that doesn't care about people who are starving in other countries. You know, when Bill Gates became this philanthropist and he said he was going to devote all his money to making the world a better place, I knew he was a lying piece of shit. Like all of a sudden he grew a heart, right? So people who have billions of dollars and have more money than they'll ever spend in their lifetime and have no financial worries and are just buying shit that they don't need, right? How many yachts do you need to water ski behind? And they're just getting more and more stuff and just, hoarding. They're hoarders. It's a psychological disorder, and they're really selfish when all these other people are starving. So, everyone should have known this about Trump, that he does not care about the little guy. I mean, all the other evidence was there, but just the way he presented himself, he loves to brag. He loves to talk about himself. He's all about Trump. He doesn't like anybody else, can't take any criticism. He's a grifter. And so, he never was going to be somebody that cared about other people. He was never going to do anything for you. Like he'll butter you up and as a grifter and talk you into something, but once he gets what he wants from you, he's going to throw you away like a piece of trash. He's that kind of person. And everybody should have known that. And then everything he's done since then has confirmed that. He's not here as some fucking hero that's out to fight the deep state. Why the fuck would you ever fall for that shit, right? He is the deep state. He wants a seat at the table. He's an upward climber, and he'll step on anybody, including all of his supporters, to get there. And he's just that guy. Like, that's what made him running for president great. Like, I was like, oh, this is going to be great, this guy. Like, he's just so fucking braggadocious and thin-skinned and fucking obnoxious. And he started coming in calling Jeb Bush, low-energy Jeb, and, like, all these nicknames and shit he had. And he was just degrading the presidency when he became president. But he was never going to be for you. He was never going to care about you. He was never going to reward you. He was never going to make good on the promises. He's not that guy. He's never that guy. And so I don't know why anybody would believe that shit. But, millions of people did. And many of these, people who are paid to, these pundits and experts that are paid to analyze such things, people trust them to listen to them, they go to them for information and analysis, and for them to buy into this shit and still buy into it even now, it's egregious. Anyways, let's get into the thing here. I got about 5 or 6 videos up here. I don't know if I'm going to play all of them. I think some of them have different quotes from Trump and some of these other things. This is the most recent. So this is State of the Union. It's the Sunday morning show, like the Meet the Press of CNN. And she has Marjorie Taylor Greene on. after Trump has disavowed her, right, for wanting him to release the Epstein files. Like, that's how fucked this thing is, and it should be the death knell for Trump. But his dumb fuck supporters will never, there's just, unless the blowing Bill Clinton thing ends up being like a real thing, they're probably going to stick with him, at least some of them.
It's the political breakup heard round the world. President Trump severing ties with at least one of his closest allies, declaring, "I am withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene," even calling for primary challenges against his one-time loyalists and attacking her as, quote, wacky, a ranting lunatic, a rhino, and a traitor.
Okay. I want to get all these quotes here. Are these all on Truth Social? So, or are they on Twitter? What's the R? That seems like that's a Truth Social thing. Again, nothing to do with Truth. He's a piece of shit. But calling her a rhino, also a lightweight, this is where he just gets all fucking nasty and shitty. But you just can't change the definition of rhino. She was a QB, a QAnon person, which sucked. But that's not a rhino, right? That's the opposite of rhino. She was like a Tea Party, what the Tea Party used to be. She was a Trump Republican and anything but a rhino. And the rhinos never wanted Jeffrey Epstein list to be released. And the rhinos were never critical of Israel. So you can't change the definition just because, like, anybody that you don't like is a rhino. It shows you what a cunt Trump is. He's just a cunt. And so here we are.
This is days before the House of Representatives is set to vote on releasing the Epstein files. It's a stunning breach between two MAGA leaders, one of whom is here with me now exclusively for her first interview since the president cut ties. Republican.
So, Trump has turns on everybody, right? Everyone should realize this. Trump's oldest associates, people that he was praising, talking about how great they were, people who loved him, they always end up here. They always fucking end up here. Trump doesn't have any friends. Trump doesn't have any loyalists. Him and Jeffrey Epstein was best friends, and then he disavowed him, right? Because he's a selfish prick, and he's around shitty people. And so this is how it always ends with Trump, because he's always promising things he's not going to deliver. He tells people he's going to do things he never does. Chris Christie, longtime friend of Trump's. Trump fucked him on COVID. Trump gave Christie and some other people COVID. Trump had COVID and didn't tell them and was in a meeting. They were helping him train for a debate. Then Trump called up Christie and said, "Hey, can you not tell everyone I gave you COVID?" And then he leaked out that Christie gave him COVID. And then Christie turned on him, hates him, right? Like they were like best buddies, like all these people. That should tell you everything you need to know about Trump. He doesn't have any old friends. Like he doesn't have anybody, allies. He's, Trump. And then he goes ballistic. He says all those fucking horrible things. Let's go back to those. Listen to her for a second, and we'll go back to those tweets.
And Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, thank you so much for being here, as you just heard. And I know you saw the president says he's withdrawing support for you, encouraging primary challengers. You were one of his biggest supporters. What do you think happened here?
Trump's a cunt, right?
Well, Dana, thank you for having me on, and that is true. I stood with President Trump when virtually no one else did. Campaigned all over the country, spent millions of my own dollars helping him get elected, and I think that's incredibly important. And I do support him and his administration, and I support them.
How can you do that? You're so vicious with everybody else. She gets into it with people like Lauren Boebert and other people that are on her side, and maybe she's a little bit more relaxed now. The guy won't release Jeffrey Epstein files, right?
And delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. However, I have something in my heart that I think is incredibly important for our country, and that is to end the toxic fighting in politics. And this has been going on for years, and it has divided our country, split up friends and families, neighbors, and it's not solving our problems. The most hurtful thing he said, which is absolutely untrue, is he called me a traitor, and that is That is so extremely wrong, and those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
Then call him a fucking cunt, right? Because that's what a fucking little bitch does, right? I mean, calling her a traitor? Like, this is the kind of piece of shit Trump is. Disloyal, only in for himself. He's the worst kind of person. The worst, right? And it was great when he was running for president because I knew he would act like the other people should act. He would be himself where these other people pretend like Joe Biden's a piece of shit. He's basically the same thing as Trump. These guys are all narcissistic, fucking evil piece of shit, right? And so, but to call her a traitor, why? Because she's wanting the Epstein files released, right? And she wants him to do something about health insurance and some of these other things. I mean, maybe a traitor to him, but he's the one who left his promises behind him. Like, she's just sticking to her things. Not that I'm praising her. She's gotten better. And but she's, one, criticizing Israel. That's not being a traitor. In fact, it's a parasitic nation that's, doing bad things for America, bad relationship, which most people with half a brain know. And all the rest of the things were things he promised. Like, everyone believed Trump was going to release the Epstein files. He's the one who's changed his mind with all his other staff. So him saying a traitor, people who don't change to his whim, bow to his fucking kingly whims, right? I mean, he's such a little bitch, right? This is, this Trump's like a horrible fucking person. I mean, he's got to go down from this thing. Like, how can he not? Like, how can he not fucking suffer some kind of political? I mean, it'll be actually funny if he survives this, because that will show you his supporters are so fucking stupid, right? Like, when this thing happened with Elon Musk, remember that? And I said, yeah, these are how his relationships end. I predicted it. I said him and Elon will go at it, and they fucking did. And you can predict it with everybody because that's what Trump does. All his relationships. Steve Bannon, Sloppy Steve. Steve Bannon helped him get elected, told him to go on Alex Jones, came in, was valuable campaign manager for him, turned on her, right? Turned on him. The Kayleigh McEnany, who does nothing but praise Trump on Fox News, she said something that he took as an insult, turned on her. I mean, and he gets vicious. Like, he's like such a little bitch about it.
What do you think happened? What do you think is the reason for this?
Unfortunately, it has all come down to the Epstein files, and that is shocking. And, I stand with these women. I stand with rape victims. I stand with children who are in terrible sex abuse situations. And I stand with survivors of trafficking and those that are trapped in sex trafficking. And I will not apologize for that. I believe the country deserves transparency in these files. And I don't believe that rich, powerful people should be protected if they have done anything wrong. And so I'm standing with the women, and I will continue to do my small part to get the files released.
You said on X yesterday, quote, "It's astonishing really how hard he's fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out, and that it really makes you wonder what is in those files." Are you suggesting there's something in the Epstein files that President Trump does not want Americans to see?
Well, I think that's the part that has so many people confused, is that the women themselves that I have talked to have over and over again said that Donald Trump did nothing wrong. Quite a few of them even told me they voted for him. And those are the women.
Whatever comes out of the Epstein files, one thing's going to come out is that they were buddies. And that's already come out. It's already fucking come out. Trump said he's a terrific guy. They weren't acquaintances. It wasn't some guy that, Trump barely knew. They hung out all the time. They hung out all the fucking time. And if that wasn't true, he wouldn't have sent his personal lawyer to Ghislaine Maxwell and then cut her a cushy fucking deal. She's getting room service and shit in her prison. Like, she's had, all this stuff's coming out. I was watching something on the morning news today about that. I mean, all this stuff. She's living high on the hog just because she didn't say anything bad about Trump. She knows she could say things. She could slam Trump. If the Democrats got in power and they're going to offer her clemency, she would totally rat him out, right? I mean, she would, she got up in the stand and ratted Trump out just to get out of her prison sentence. She would totally do that because that's the kind of scumbag she is. And so the reason Trump went in there was to make sure she didn't say anything about him. And he said that he wished her well when she got arrested or prosecuted when she got convicted. I mean, these are all things. There's no doubt Trump knew what was going on, and he partook, whatever that meant, because he was doing other things with, like, walking in the dressing room of teenage girls, right? He's like that. That's why him and Jeffrey Epstein had this in common. He said he likes beautiful women almost maybe as much as I do. That was his whole, that was what he said. So that was his thing. Trump said that's his vice. That's his alcoholism. 15-year-old girls that he hired. So this is, there's no doubt that he's also a part of an elite club that think this is okay. That think that what Jeffrey Epstein did was okay. The only part they don't like about it is the blackmail part. Like, they're not psyched about that. Everything else, it's just what they do. This is what rich people do. This is the depravity they get into.
And I would like to see in the Oval Office with support, I would like to see all of the women there with support. I have no idea what's in the files. I can't even guess, but that is the questions everyone is asking, is why fight this so hard?
Well, before this blow-up, you sort of alluded to this just now. You said you were confident the president wouldn't be implicated. Are you still confident of that?
I'm listening to the women. Those are the...
She said that because she was hoping that this wouldn't go this south. Like, she didn't want to break from him this much. She was, I mean, all these people fucking step around this motherfucker, right? I mean, such a little bitch. Just fucking say it. Go after the fucking guy. I mean, he's going after you. Like, just...
ones that are saying that he did nothing wrong. Virginia Giuffre even said under oath that Donald Trump did nothing wrong, and she wrote it in her book. So I'm continuing to listening to the women, and I think their voices should be the loudest.
The president said the reason that you have been critical of him is not necessarily Epstein, but because he pushed you not to run for the Senate or for governor in Georgia. How and when did he do that?
Well, that is absolutely not true. Actually, I never had a conversation at all with the president about running for Senate or
let's just say he's a fucking liar. He's a lying piece of shit.
running for Georgia. And those were decisions I came to on my own that I don't want to have anything to do with the Senate. I think the past 2 months of the government shutdown should have shown America exactly why I would never want to be there. I think it's a very broken institution that serves the uniparty and doesn't serve the American.
Yeah, the uniparty, the bloodslave paradigm. And so, all the people, you have to be really stupid to believe this is about him saying that he didn't want her to run for Senate. Or she's going to say governor. Did she say that? Did she say Georgia?
American people and how they vote. And I decided that I didn't want to run for governor this cycle either. I very much want to do the job.
I think I missed it, but she said something about Georgia instead of governor. But anyways, so that's the first piece, right? Like, he's a lying piece of shit. Anybody would know this is about Epstein. It's fucking totally about Epstein. And that she would stick to her guns because she's... that's the kind of person she's been before. She was one of the few people that are going to stick to her guns about Epstein. So this is how fucked Trump is. And it's what I was saying in the voiceover. That Trump is a selfish piece of shit, which, it's obvious. It should have been obvious when you first heard him. Like, within seconds of hearing the guy talk, you can just... the narcissism, the arrogance, and the self-involvement is just pouring out of every pore of his fucking body, right? So this is a commentary Donald J. Trump post from Truth Social. And so these are things from his account. If the entire Republican Party doesn't unite behind Trump now, there's absolutely no reason to have a Republican Party. Trump retweeted this. He retruthed it. So that's the first thing I'm going to show you. Then here, this is from his account. Marjorie Taylor Greene's net worth was $700,000 when she took office in Congress. And in just 4 years, it's now $25 million today. Nothing to see here. Move along. And so this has, somebody posted this. Grok, what was Marjorie Taylor Greene's net worth before she took office? What is the net worth today? And so Trump is posting this shit, like about corruption. When his family has taken billions. He's getting free airplanes and shit, right? Like, just an absolute piece of shit. Like, to be that corrupt. You know, these people are all corrupt, and that is whatever it is. Let's go down here. Seth Meyers. This is another one, the same thing from him. Reposted it. So I had to scroll through 50 tweets and retweets to get to this, right? From yesterday. This is from yesterday. So he's put up 50 truths since that time. So this is a social media post from that time yesterday. So lightweight Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Brown, green grass turns brown when it begins to rot. Like, what a little child, right? Betrayed the entire Republican Party when she turned left, performed poorly on the pathetic View, and became the rhino that we all knew she always was. Just another fake politician, no different than Rand Paul Jr., Thomas Massey, who got caught being a full-fledged Republican in name only rhino, make America great again. I mean, he's just an absolute piece of shit for a guy who doesn't want to, deal with the fact that he's fucking in the Epstein files, that he's, Marjorie Taylor Greene is disgrace to our great Republican Party. I am withdrawing my support. Let's see if I can make this bigger here so I can read it more easily. And that's not going to work. Here. Boom. I'm withdrawing my support for endorsement of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia. Over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements for our country, including a total and complete victory on the shutdown. The shutdown he did purposely to delay the Epstein files from being released. There's going to be nightmare plane issues and plane delays, and especially during the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was going to negatively affect the Christmas holiday season, shopping, traveling, all that shit. Like, he had to fucking make a deal. But he delayed it as much as possible. And then he immediately went after all these people and begged them or demanded them, threatened them to not let the Epstein files out. I mean, that's what a piece of shit he is. And so, and it says here, of George, over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements, all the things that he says, low taxes, no men in sports, all this kind of stuff. 8 years building the military. This is what I'm talking about, bragging. Somebody who has to brag this much, like, this is all about how great he did, and have created the hottest country anywhere in the world from being dead country 12 months ago and so much more. All as I see is wacky Marjorie Taylor Greene do is complain. The other thing he does is he spirals. Like, he gets into this, how Kanye spirals. You see this with some people in the truth community. People who get rattled, they get shook, and they freak out, and they spiral, and they lose their shit on the internet, right? And they can't help themselves, and they go on social media and embarrass the shit out of themselves. But when they do it, it's funny, most of them. When Trump does it, he's fucking president, right? I mean, such a little bitch. It says here, complain. It seemed to begin when I sent a poll stating that she should not run for senator or governor. She was at 12% and didn't have a chance unless, of course, she had my endorsement, which she wasn't about to get. She was told many people that she was upset that I didn't return her phone calls anymore. But with 219 congressmen and women, 53 U.S. senators, 24 cabinet members, and almost 200 countries, and otherwise normal life to lead, I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. But you got up there and praised the shit out of her. She spoke at your whatever the fuck that thing was, when he got nominated, the Republican National Convention. I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. I understand that wonderful Congress conservative people are thinking about primarying Marjorie in her district of Georgia, that they too are fed up with her and her antics, and if the right person runs, they will have my complete and unyielding support. she has gone far left, even doing The View with their low IQ Republican hating anchors. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Absolute piece of shit, this guy. So here's the original one there. Did Thomas Massey, sometimes referred as Rand Paul Jr., because of the fact that he always votes against the Republican Party, get married today? Boy, that was quick. No wonder the polls have him less than 8% chance of winning the election. Anyway, have a great life, Thomas, and his wife will soon find out that she's stuck with a loser. You know, his wife died or something? I'm not sure. I think I have that in this other video. So, you know, there it is. These are some of the posts. There's more stuff here somewhere, some of the other stuff with Marjorie Taylor Greene. But we'll see these other posts in here. I'm withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements for our country and total complete victory of the shutdown, all this stuff. This is the same thing we saw. All right. So these things are retweeted, tweeted again. He comments on them. And so he's just, this is what he spends most of his time doing. He's on this bullshit True Social thing. Okay, so YouTube has this thing. There's been a breakthrough here. Today is Monday, the 17th of November. There's been a kind of, development in the story from yesterday. I was making this video. So there's this guy, Benny Johnson. Twitter had recommended him a number of times. Like, I didn't know who he was. And then I heard him talk. I'm like, oh, that guy's another gay Republican. Or very effeminate, very, metrosexual, these guys. And somehow YouTube, they have this thing where you can, in your feed, people can put an ad or a picture or a link to their news site or something, or a link to a video that goes into your feed, like people pay for it. And Benny Johnson did that yesterday. And he said, release it all. Breaking, President Trump calls on the House Republicans to vote to release the Epstein files. Now, this is highly suspicious, right? Given the fact that he's blocked it, obstructed, he's the one guy, closed down the whole, had an epic government close down, federal government closed down just to stop to release it. Kill Charlie Kirk, right? All the things he's done to prevent this thing from being released. And now that nobody wants to work with him, he's had to throw Marjorie Taylor Greene under the bus, call her a traitor, all the things that he's done. He finally is coming out when it's going to be released anyway. He also opened an investigation saying, we can't release it because it's not now part of an open investigation. Which, again, that's not a true thing. They say this about Erica. They say this about Charlie Kirk. Oh, we can't release this information because it's an ongoing investigation. Well, you already released a bunch of shit. You released the name of the shooter. You released, all the information about him and his family. You released his texts. You released all the stuff that incriminates the patsy. When that was an open investigation, they just make shit up, right? Oh, we can't do it. Yes, you can. You've been doing it forever. You always do it, right? Like, you always release the things that are helpful to your, your whatever your thing you're doing. So in that, you have, this dopey motherfucker, and it's not a good picture of him. Like, this guy is supposed to be a Trump person, but Trump looks sad and depressed and, withdrawn fish boy. So let's go to Trump's tweet here. As I said Friday night above Air Force One to the fake news media, the House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. Either they've edited the files, blocked out his name, or he just knows he's fucked. But whatever it is, right? Can the guy get... this is just... are people this fucking stupid? It's hard to believe that his supporters are this fucking stupid. And the ones that certainly care about this, which many of them do. And so, just so bad. Because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from the Democrat hoax perpetrated by the radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory over Democratic shutdown. Again, the Republicans own the House and the Senate, and they wanted to get back, the House people particularly, but the Democrats wanted to get back in so they could release the Epstein files. And he delayed it as much as possible. I mean, just blatantly fucking saying the opposite of what actually happened. And, the fact that this people still buy into this shit. I mean, just like no self-respect. Like just, I mean, how could you just like, this guy's always been, I said earlier in the video and, the voiceover thing I did, this guy's always been about himself. He's just one of those really, really selfish people that it's very easy to see when he just starts talking. He can just say one sentence, in 1980, in 1990, 2000, 2010, 2016, 2020, 2025, and you're like, oh, this guy's really selfish, right? It's just, there's no, and some people who are selfish don't do shit for other people, right? And he's proven that over and over again. And, I covered his, I talked about some of the people he's thrown under the bus, but also people who have gone to jail for this motherfucker. There's a long list of them, of people who ended up being, either fired. I mean, everybody he comes in contact with, their lives get worse, right? You think, oh, I'm connected to a rich billionaire somehow. No, like he fucks people over and are just his bad energy, and they after they leave his orbit, their life is much worse off, right? The Department of Justice, including the victory over the government shutdown, Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein. They're looking at various Democratic operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein. And the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. I thought you want to just move on. Like it's just like, I don't care. I don't care. You guys are big meanies. All right, they'll release the files. I don't care. I don't care. Why don't you care? Why wouldn't you care? Why wouldn't you care about this fucking pedophile that was once your best buddy that hurt so many young women? Why wouldn't you care about all your supporters that this was their number one issue and they wanted you to release these files and they thought you were? I don't care. All I care about is the Republicans getting back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are big, we're winning big. Our victory over reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, bringing down the prices for American people, delivering a historic tax cut. Now, this is where he has to brag. I don't care. Like, but why would he care? Like, you don't care about fucking this guy who was human trafficking, working for the Mossad and fucking blackmailing people and all that. I don't care. Bringing down trillions of dollars in investment into America, a record. The rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens, ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender. He's saying the same thing over and over again. He just said all the same shit in the tweet about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and so much more. Nobody cared about Epstein when he was alive. Yes, they did. They cared about him. And a lot of people cared about him, were your supporters. If the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before our landslide election victory. Some members of the Republican Party are being used, and we can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. So what a piece of shit, right? Like this is, I mean, that's what you're going to come out with? And who the fuck would believe this? Like what dumb fuckistan, brain dead motherfucker would believe this stuff? After, again, people don't follow if you're not following the whole story, you wouldn't just get this. But I mean, just like, it's so bad. Like this is a condemnation of how how stupid the people that follow him are. Like at this point, he should have no supporters. I mean, all just the stuff that's been released so far and all the shit he said is more than enough to bury this guy, and his resistance to releasing it and then whining like this. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. You guys, guys, I don't care. I don't fucking care. Why do you care? I don't care. You fucking do. Okay, I'll do it. You know, like fucking. Wow, what a little bitch. Okay, so here's more in Marjorie Taylor Greene. We'll go through these videos a little bit. I don't know what's in them. This is, going back in time by a day or two.
Breaking up turns out not so hard to do. President Trump has declared he is officially pulling his endorsement.
You know when they try to be funny? Breaking up, not so hard to do. There's a fucking song. Like, breaking up is hard to do. It's a fucking horrible song. It's not funny. Like, these fucking guys, man. Jesus.
Of MAGA firebrand Marjorie Taylor Greene. The Georgia Congresswoman has been demanding the release of the Epstein files and has criticized the president for spending too much time abroad. The president, has apparently heard enough, posting on Truth Social overnight that all wacky Marjorie Taylor Greene does is complain, complain, complain.
I think that her constituents aren't going to be happy. Already I have people calling me. They want to challenge her to a race in her district in Georgia. And,
she's pretty wacky.
It's too bad. She's lost a wonderful conservative reputation. But when she says, don't go overseas, if I didn't go overseas, we might be in a war right now with China.
That's fucking concerning, right? That's pretty concerning, right?
Meanwhile, President Trump is also upset with Congressman Thomas Massie, who also wants the Epstein files released. A Trump-aligned super PAC is spending $1 million on ads targeting the Kentucky Republican. Massie says his constituents understand his position.
When they're protecting pedophiles, when they are blowing our budget, when they are starting wars overseas, I'm sorry, I can't go along with that. And back home, people agree with me. They understand.
All right, so that's this one here. Well, it's a little bit more here. Let's go over this thing.
And Attorney General Pam Bondi was quick to oblige, appointing the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan to handle that probe, even though 4 months ago the DOJ determined nothing in the Epstein files warranted further investigation. This week, the president's name turned up repeatedly in just released emails from the Epstein estate.
What did Jeffrey Epstein mean in his emails when he said you knew about the girls?
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago.
They would have announced that a long time ago. Of course you knew about it, right? You said Jeffrey Epstein likes him on the young side. He fucking knew. Let's just show that fucking, let me go to that thing. So this came out in 2015 when Trump started to run for office, right? So this was an old quote from an article that was in like the New Yorker about a positive, it's one of these New York magazines, about this guy, Jeffrey Epstein's, this, whatever they called him, an international man of travel. They had an airplane and him and Bill Clinton. And Trump gave a quote for the article. And I had this font that I downloaded called Bloodthirsty. And I used to put it out, and I just always liked this font for this kind of thing. And Trump said this. This is our article asked for a quote about Jeffrey Epstein. I've known Jeffrey for 15 years. So this is from 2002. So back 15,000 years. This was just a couple years before. In 2006, he would be investigated and arrested in 2006 and 2007. So just 5 years before that. And Trump said, I've known Jeffrey for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. So he's with them, right? I mean, it's a quote for an article. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. So he knew about the girls, right? Because Trump dated very young women, was around very young women, hired a young woman. I've showed you, I've got a whole hour-long thing, a compilation, which I'll play at some point when I make my video 4 hours long. But, you guys have seen it's been a bunch of my videos where Trump says inappropriate things about women and things that he's done. And all of it, right? He's a fucking creep when it comes to this. Said he was an addict, hired a 15-year-old girl and said that, this is like it was like a drink to an alcoholic. You know, he went into the dressing room, all these things. You know, I've even said this before in this video. So Trump knew. Many of them are on the younger side. He likes beautiful women as much as I do, so this is their thing, that they have something in common, right? They like these young girls. They're old, creepy guys. And many of them are on the younger side. And so, you know, what do you mean? Like 19, 18? Like, you know, that's all creepy in itself. But it wasn't just, you know, him liking young girls. It was like he was dating them and treating them with respect. They were his slaves. You know, these were his, you know, this was like a sexual abuse cult, and he was pimping these girls out, including to, you know, Prince Andrew and these other people. And then having things on these people, spying, connected to a foreign government. I mean, this isn't a terrific guy. You think that Jeffrey Epstein's a terrific guy? Trump's assessment, he's a terrific guy. So Trump knew. Trump fucking knew. For years, this was, you know, this was available to people. He gave a quote. This is incriminating. This is a confession here. Trump fucking knew. Look at this shifty-eyed motherfucker here. Go back to this.
The girls?
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago.
They would have announced that a long time ago if they had anything on me. But you've already announced it. You say he's a terrific guy and he likes young girls. You knew. And you said you knew him for 15 years. Like, everybody knew what he was about. He wasn't hiding any of this stuff. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't like, oh, this is what's happened in the back rooms. Like, this is what's known about the guy. Like, this is what Jeffrey Epstein did. It was just out there. And so he's a, you know, he knows he's fucked. Like, he knows he's fucked. All right, let's go to the next thing here.
This morning, President Trump in an escalating feud with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, for years one of his most ardent supporters. At the center of their fight, the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and the push by a bipartisan group of lawmakers, including Greene, to get more information released about his crimes. This weekend, President Trump writing, Marjorie Traitor Greene is a disgrace to our great Republican Party.
You know, calling her a traitor is just fucking a low blow. Because, you know, you could be a traitor to her and the Republican Party. You could be a traitor to the Republican Party. But Republicans are not against releasing Jeffrey Epstein files, and certainly MAGA people and Trump people and QBs and things like this, right? You're not a traitor if you're the person that you're, you know, whatever you're supposed to be loyal to, in this case Trump, is doing illegal shit or blocking something or has something to hide. You're not a traitor. You're not a rat. If people who are doing criminal activity and are hurting other people, and you're supposed to not say anything about them, even if they're your relatives and people like that, right? You know, when I was younger, a bunch of my friends were cheating on their girlfriends, right? And you know, one of my best friend from high school that I ended up moving and being his roommate. We shared an apartment, and he was dating this girl, and she had bright red hair, and she was like a little bit fiery and crazy, and I didn't like her at first, but you know, she and I were driving somewhere, and we were gonna meet him or something, and she went into like a convenience store, and I was sitting in the car, and she came out, and she bought a sandwich and a drink for this homeless guy. And I was like, well, that's pretty nice. Like, I wouldn't have done it, you know, because I'm, but, you know, I mean, I thought, oh, that was a nice gesture, you know, whatever. And I saw her in a different light because I thought she was just kind of bitchy and whatever. And, you know, we were kind of friends, you know, not, you know, whatever, close or anything. But she realized I didn't like to lie. And when he was cheating on her, she would call me up and grill me. And, you know, and I mean, it was like, there's some kind of bro code, this kind of thing. It wasn't supposed to rat out your friends. But, you know, don't put people in a shitty position. Like, why should I compromise my moral integrity to have to cover for you? Like, you know, and I just wouldn't say anything. I didn't lie or whatever. But, you know, I mean, my brother was a serial cheater. And so, you know, this whole thing, there's these social constructs to keep the truth from coming out, where people, you know, just, and if somebody's asking you to lie, whatever, like, or just it's implied that you're supposed to do that by some fucking code, the bro code or some kind of other bullshit thing. You don't have to do it. Like, you should just tell the truth, you know, whatever it is. You know, if other people are fucking, you know, get screwed over by not screwed over, if their own actions cause them to suffer something. You should just do it. Like, you're not a traitor. You're not a rat. And like I said earlier, the official position of the Trump administration or his election committee was not, oh, we're going to suppress the Epstein files. When he was running for president, it wasn't, oh, we're going to release the Epstein files. It was the opposite. He's the one he's going back on a promise, right? Going back on one of the pillars of his, one of the things that was expected of his voters, right? And so, it's a fucked up thing to say.
Part of a series of posts about Green, including this one, in which he said he was withdrawing his support and endorsement.
So let's go over here. Okay, so I'm editing here. I'm going to go move forward to the next piece. But look at this. This is classic Fish Boy. I just realized this is why I call him Fish Boy. Look at that fucking mug there, right?
Politicians a striking change from their past mutual praise.
And somebody that I just think is fantastic.
Is it terrific? Like Jeffrey Epstein was terrific?
I never, ever want to have her as my enemy. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
What's happening, bro?
Let's get President Trump across the line. Let's get him back in the White House for 4 more years.
4 more years, maybe 2. What about 2?
But now Green saying she is getting threats following the president's attacks against her. Meanwhile, President Trump downplaying his own ties to Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years. This is a hoax.
We had a very bad relationship? We were breaking up? What happened? For many years we had a bad relationship. But, the 15 years where I said he was a terrific guy, that was our, we were cool then. Hung out, did perv stuff together. We were the perv bros. We hung out. And then, when he got busted and I thought I might get dragged into it, we had a very bad relationship. And, he tried to take a real estate deal I was interested in. And he was, hiring people for my club that I didn't want to leave because, I wanted them there. And then we had a very bad relationship.
Out by the Democrat, and a few Republicans have gone along with it because they're weak and ineffective.
They're weak and ineffective. They've gone along with this thing, this hoax. Why are they trying to get me with this hoax? I didn't say like he was a terrific guy and he liked young girls. Like I didn't say that stuff. I don't care. I just stomp his foot. I don't care. I don't care if you go ahead and release those files. I don't care. I don't care about it.
President Trump has not been charged with criminal activity linked to Epstein.
Okay, so why do you even have to say that? Like, why the fuck do you have to say that? You guys so scared of this motherfucker you have to say that? It's like that little blurb they put underneath a YouTube video. Just so you guys know, we're not saying anything like he's guilty. He's guilty as fuck, right? He's guilty by association. And he knew. And he didn't care because he didn't care about Epstein and the girls. Because he was doing his own immoral shit. Like, they talked about this and they joked about it. They were seedy guys, like grab him by the pussy, locker room talk. All this stuff that he said. Like, he's a fucking scumbag. He's a lowlife. He's a fucking, and he's a New York lowlife, fucking criminal, slumlord, just a piece of shit. A selfish piece of shit. And it was funny when he ran for president, because I knew he wouldn't hide that he's a piece of shit, which is a step up of than what we were getting at that time from people like Joe Biden who pretended they weren't pieces of shit, but were pieces of shit. Where Trump was just going to say, hey, I'm a selfish piece of shit. And he did, and people loved it. But this is what you get, right? You get at the end of the day, he's a selfish piece of shit. So one more thing here.
We think it's bad to talk about it because it gets away from the subject of how well the Republicans are doing. We have the greatest economy. We have the largest investment ever made in our country's history. We have all of these great...
Again, this is what I'm talking about, him bragging. The guy brags all the time, Fish Boy. Almost close to Fish Boy. We'll see if we can get a Fish Boy here.
Things happen. When you talk about
Oh, I missed it.
the Epstein hoax...
Yeah, a little bit of Fish Boy. That's look at it. The Job of the Hutt. Yeah, not the that annoying character from the the fourth movie when they made the second trilogy. Those fish people, remember? Jar Jar Binks, and there was a fat king fish. It's Trump. It's a fucking annoying shit. You mean we can only talk about your accomplishments? All Republicans are all you guys can do Hey, look at what we've done. Look at our accomplishments. Hey, accomplishments. Like it's on a fucking reel. You can't talk about accomplishments and Epstein, right? You can't talk about Epstein and the accomplishments. There's not enough time to do both. Like you're doing both. Like you're right now in this sentence, you're talking about your accomplishments and you're also talking about the Epstein hoax, and you're not wasting a lot of time. It gets away from our what do you mean it gets away from your accomplishments? Like you don't want distractions? No, you're fucking you're guilty, right? You're involved in this thing. And so is Israel. So whatever they've told you to say or whatever you're saying on your own behalf, it's to block something. You spent all this time shutting down the government. All this, you'd want to get distracted by Charlie Kirk's assassination that you guys, Israel, perpetrated as a distraction. Like all the time they spent wasting time, a government shutdown, all the things that they've done, everything he's done to stop this fucking thing from coming out. And he's saying they're wasting time talking about it. Like he's a child. He's a little child.
What happens is you're not talking about how well we've done.
That's all you can do is talk about how well you've done. You're talking about how you were connected to a pedo. And that undermines all the success, all the stuff I like to brag about.
It's a hoax put out by the Democrat, and a few Republicans have gone along with it because they're weak and ineffective. But this is a Democrat hoax to get away from the fact that they just lost the shutdown and they've lost the elections.
Yeah, but it's not that, because that was before the shutdown. The Democrats were never into this till they realized you didn't want it out. Like you self-incriminated. The Democrats were, they had 4 years under Biden to release this, and they didn't. And because whatever, they're all, it's all there for everyone. But they never attacked you on this. They didn't run this as an issue. And then all of a sudden, when it came out that we were unwilling to release them, the Democrats dove in on this thing, and then you shut down the government, right? When the Democrats and Republicans had enough votes to get it out. And so, it's not a distraction, right? I mean, it's you've made it into this.
The big election, to me, in a record number.
All right, we have an excellent panel to break this.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You got an excellent fucking panel, don't you? Your fucking panel. Right? Let's see his excellent panel.
It's all down. Let's go. Politico's Joshua Burns.
Burns. He's got Josh.
Jeff Zeleny.
Did you say Joshette Burns? Is her name Joshette? Is that like a feminine version of Josh that they wanted to name their son Josh, and they got a fucking girl, so they named her Joshette? Let's see if that's the thing.
Panel to break this all down. Let's go. Politico's Joshua Burns.
Dasha Burns. Oh, fucking even worse.
CNN's Jeff Zeleny. CNN's Isaac Dover. And
Isaac Dover. What a fucking panel.
Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Nice to see you all.
What a fucking panel.
Okay, so when Marjorie Taylor Greene first came to Washington in 2021.
Okay, that's enough. I can't deal with this. I can't fucking deal with your bullshit, right? I don't care. Okay, here it is. It's a temple coin. One of my viewers sent this to me, or mentioned in a comment. It's 2017 Trump declaration from 1917 to 2017. I'm not sure. Is he born in 1917? Is that his? That would be. He would be 100 years old. That's not true.
Okay, so we have the Donald Trump coin. We have Cyrus. We have Donald Trump. Here we have Cyrus Balfour Trump's declaration.
Boom. Shekels. It's not a half shekel. It's only worth half a shekel.
In Hebrew, Trump, and we have the temple, which has spread. A few months ago, President Donald Trump declared that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. The holy Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. We want to say thank you. We want to show our gratitude.
So I shekeling him. We want to shekel the shit out of this guy. Shekel him up.
That big declaration, and that's why we put President Donald Trump next to King Cyrus on our special coin.
Our special coin. Here we go. Shekel that motherfucker. Look at him shekel him. We gotta wash those shekels up. Shine those shekels up. Look at, put those little shekels on clips. Watch the fucking evil off of those shekels. Watch the fucking genocide off of those shekels. Watch the fucking depravity and the Jeffrey Epstein off of those shekels. Shine those shekels up. Shine the shit out of those
The
shekels.
income from these donations are going to be used for the rebuilding and education of the Third Temple. The temple belongs to everybody, to the Jewish nation, but also to the whole world. So we're starting with the people of Israel, we're starting maybe with the Trump base, but I'm sure that maybe through Trump, everybody will understand not how Donald Trump is important, but how important Jerusalem and the temple is for the whole world.
Exactly. It's not about Trump and his shekel. It's about the temple. It's just we got to get this fucking everyone through this fucking temple of shame. This temple of horrors of genocides and all the rest of it. So, fuck Donnie Shekels, Donnie half shekels. Okay, so I just am looking at the comments. A lot of people told me that Calvary is different than Calvary. I'm not even sure how you'd pronounce. One has a C-A-L. Let me see. I have the comment right here. One is the C-V-A-L-R-Y, which is the military, and one is C-A-L-V-A-R-Y. The L is in a different. They all have the same letters, and it seems like they're pronounced very similar. And one is for where Jesus is, Calvary Hill, where Jesus was killed, which is what the church is about, which is fucked even worse than being associated with the military. You know, the crucifixion is not something to be celebrated, and the cross should not be the symbol of Christianity. Isn't Jesus' finest moment? And, you know, the only thing on his part was, to my understanding, he was so bummed out by all the people, which is very common for spiritual people, for people who come down here. He was so bummed out by the people not getting it. You know, I experienced a small part of that. Like I have that experience. I don't get that bummed out about it because it's, you know, which is just based on my personality. But he was looking at humanity and he was giving them this, you know, divine opportunity. And even his disciples were shitting the bed. They all sucked for the most part. And he was prayed to die. I know Gandhi prayed to die. You know, Gandhi was a lot like Jesus, where he was a social reformer as much as being anything spiritual, which I've talked about before. People don't like that, but that's just the way that I have been told about it. So I have a variety of comments that came today. The person wrote this. I talked about how people say they fall asleep by my voice, right? There's something soothing in your voice. I do not really have trouble to go to sleep usually, but train myself to go to sleep at certain times. Problem is I do not pay for your YouTube, so the ads then wake me up. If I really needed the professional real help, I would need to use a version without ads. But sometimes it happens that I can sleep through all the ads. Last time I was somewhat afraid that I might hurt your feelings when I joined someone's related post. Is your voice not the subject, and in a good way? And so there's a number of comments like this. This is just one I picked out. That people fall asleep because, you know, there's transmission from the Seismark system. There's spiritual energy in my videos, which I can feel. And, you know, it's, if you do the Seismark system, well, here, let's see, there's another. Oh, here, good. This is the next comment. What is the best way to learn about Seismark system? You've mentioned that the system has been corrupted, so where would one find the untainted information? Well, I have created something called Gratefullness meditation, where I, you know, do the sittings for people. You can get these individual sittings and group meditations and things, and I post a video every Tuesday. It's always free. There's no, you know, and then I have videos explain where you can find the books and the resources. I explain how you do your personal practice, one of which is the cleaning aspect. And so the idea in ancient yogic teachings, some of the stuff is new that hasn't or was exclusive to small groups of people in different periods in history, the transmission part. where this divine energy is transmitted into people's hearts when you meditate on the heart. But there's also this aspect of cleaning where a preceptor or the master system do deep cleaning on some skaras, their impressions, which is part of ancient yogic teaching. You know, people think about karma and they think about sins, but samskaras are much more accurate. It's the official way that people collect experiences that distort their reality, impressions, and they could be traumas, they could be addictions, they could be good things, they could be bad things, but they're impressions that you have. You know how when you hear a song and you go to lay down to go to sleep, and all of a sudden the song comes up in your head, and it might be an annoying song that you don't even want to hear. And so when you repeat it over and over again, or you play a song a number of times that you really like, and you can't get it out of your head, that would be considered a samskara. It's an impression. And when you have things that upset you during the day and whatever it might be, you do a personal cleaning at the end of the day when you're done with your work. And, it could be right before bed, but almost everybody does their cleaning right at bedtime, goes to sleep while they're doing their cleaning, because it's really relaxing. And then it relaxes you so you don't get all stressed out reliving your day. And so the cleaning aspect of the Speilberg system helps even more with this than listening to my videos. But, people do that because they find that they're relaxing, which is a good thing. I'm not, Anyway, so there's that. There's links in the description box of all my videos to the Gratefullness meditation channel, and it's Gratefullness with 2 L's. That's the easy way to find it. It's not a real thing. It's just something I did because I couldn't call it Speilberg because, there's, even though heartfulness is this thing with Daji, who, he's just a piece of shit who, there's a guy called the Daji Truther. He's an Indian preceptor, kind of he's there and he really dislikes the whole Daji thing. And he posts stuff. He's one of the few people that post stuff. And I think I was friends with him for a while, maybe on Facebook. And I saw him in India and I met his wife. His wife and him are like they stand out in some way. And they were good friends with this Master Charge. He just sent me something where Daji's like, I'm getting so many awards. He won this award called the Puda Bhusham Award. And it's something you pay for. It's like my brother when we were walking by, or we were driving by a martial arts studio. And there's all these trophies in the window. And he goes, when you open a dojo, the first thing you do is go to Mr. Trophy. And, which is really a great joke. And Bob and Daji's is getting all these awards. And he said, he gave him all these awards. And does that mean I'm better than Lalaji and Babaji? No, there are 3 masters. Lalaji was the first one, Babaji the second one, and Charji the third one. And he leaves him out. And that was his master. He spent, 36 years with Charji being the master. And he was Charji's successor. He just leaves him out like a fucking dick. And once you do that, once you break the sort of the line of credit, where you just think that you're off on your own or you're surpassed the previous people, and they're ahead of you in the so-called brighter world, connecting you and this whole thing, the line of gurus. But anyway, so there's that. So this person wrote, I also heard about the foreskins when people lived in the desert and could get inside it, sand could get inside it and cause issues. I can understand that being uncomfortable. An issue that we live in the desert, but we don't live in the desert, and there is absolutely no reason for removing it. It's nothing but genital mutilation and torture for an infant. And somebody wrote underneath that it's a mark of servitude. Here I found the rest of this comment. Well, that sucks. It brought me back to the fucking beginning. I gotta scroll all the way back down here. I don't know why I did that. Some kind of bullshit thing here. Here it is. Okay. Shortly after my son was born, we were still in the hospital. The doctor asked if he wanted to have him circumcised. I said, no, that's not my penis. It's his, which is a accurate comment. He can't make the decision for himself. When he's older, the doctor looked relieved. I must have commented on expression or something because he said, the doctor said he really doesn't like performing circumcision on baby as it's medically unnecessary. His comment was about on babies, might seem weird, but years later I dated a guy who ended up needing a circumcision for medical reasons. I'm sure male doctors might feel a bit squeamish about doing the procedure on a grown man, but it's probably more of the masculine empathy that causes a guy of all ages to groan when they see another guy get hit in the groin. They all feel the pain just by witnessing the crotch shot. It's almost cute the way they unite over the thing. Because, All right, so, there was a time where my two sons did not get circumcised, and one of them had an issue with phimosis, where the end of it closes up. And there was this idea that it might need some surgery. And it took care of itself. It solved itself. Phimosis, it seals up in some way, and it's hard to urinate and all these things. But eventually, it just works itself out. And so I was unfamiliar with it because I got, hacked up when I was a kid baby. And so, I took him out to, I had to drive like 3 hours to the doctor, 2 hours or something. And we had this old big 16-passenger van. And I'm pretty sure, we had bought this farmhouse, but we still were trying to sell our other house. And the real estate market had tanked. And I think I went back there, and there was like a tree down on the house. It didn't do any damage to the roof, but it was it was a whole fucking thing, right? And I was getting more and more frustrated and getting more and more whatever. And then we got to the, just like irritated. And we got to the hospital, and I didn't like the doctor, and he was creepy. And, it just, it didn't feel right. Like the more the day evolved, and then finally I'm like to my son, let's get out of here. Let's just go. And, and then the whole thing worked itself out. So he didn't need surgery. It was one of those things. And back then, I was, my ex was against all these medical things, and which she ended up taking the most recent facts, and that was all weird. But it's just, it's hard to try. Like, we're not medical experts, and yet, or most of us aren't, and it's hard to become one. And these doctors have years and years of training, and they still don't get like a lot of important information, and they're all specialized, and they all have this is what we do with this is what we do with that. It's the difference between being a healer and a doctor. And it's very hard to find a healer. Okay, this is a comment to Trump did what to Bill Clinton and Meghan Shekels, Kelly Epstein. So there was this tweet that said Bill Clinton had, blue Bubba. Trump blew Bubba. Guess this is how Trump came up with the name Big Beautiful Bill. Now, if the person really watched my video, they would have seen that there was a meme I used that somebody sent me to do with this. Maybe my wife, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But, it said the same thing. So I actually included that in the video, and it wasn't my joke, it was somebody else's. And this person obviously heard that joke and decided to drop it in there without watching the video, which is just bullshit, right? Anyways, this person writes to the same video, I'm sure you have something worth learning or worth hearing, but I have a busy life, and I don't have 2 hours to listen to all the other fluff between the meat. Have a nice day. These people, lots of people write these comments like I'm offering an invitation. Like, I go, hey, over there, do you want to watch my 2-hour video? Like somehow, and the person goes, well, no, thanks. I'm sure you, like it's an answer to me saying, I'm putting the videos out there, and whether you want to watch it or not, I understand why people don't like me. I'm not a fan of my own show. I don't like to listen back to my own show. I don't, I'm not a fan. Like I said, sometimes when I used to listen to it, especially with the more spiritual, when I do the voiceovers, I would get into a meditative state or start to doze off. So I felt the transmission. It's one of the reasons why I feel like it's worthwhile for me to make videos. And there's people who like it, and there's people who enjoy this. But I don't expect everyone to like it or enjoy it, right? And I'm perfectly fine with you not, because that's your choice and your preferences. And it's not for everybody. And not everybody has the time for it. But like this person, let me read that comment again. Like, it's like I said to him, hey, over there, you got a couple hours to spare and watch my video? Like, I'm begging people to watch it. I'm sure you have something worth hearing, but I have a busy life. You know, like, if you have such a busy life, why are you writing these bullshit comments, right? Like, get back to go. It's a misuse of your time. It's an unnecessary comment because I'm not even aware you're going to watch my video or not, right? I mean, I don't like have any sense of people. There's just some icon and some comments, but like we don't know each other, right? And the person writes, you're doing a good job when greetings, brothers and sisters becomes a personal attack to someone with an emoji. So I was talking about how some guy, one of these incels, was upset because he felt like I was putting more effort into the sisters. And I don't know how much I do it now, but I think I used to do it where I go, greetings, brothers and sisters, like sistos, or, I used to do like more, I don't know. But the person was upset that I was, somehow minimizing what men got. And I'm like, it's just what I fucking say, right? And that's a person who was a fan of the show. Somebody who was watching the videos and was like really bothered by this, like took it personally. Some person wrote, LOL, feminist is not exactly a word I'd use to describe you. Well, being a feminist isn't being pro-woman, right? Being a pro-mother. I mean, in terms of Sizemore system, I made a video called, I don't know the name of it. It's something that people comment about all the time. It's some kind of, it's about motherhood. It's called Just a Mom, right? And I was talking about how hard it is to be a mom. They say it used to be, it's probably even more now because of inflation, that if you calculate all the work that's being done by a mom, they would make $120,000 a year. That was probably maybe even double now with everything that's going on. And, and that's, working for a long period. That's working, more than 40 hours a week. But Just a Mom was that there were all these feminist women, these left-leaning women who would say, that would have trouble saying I'm just a mom. Like being just a mom, you had to have a career too. And if you have a career, it's hard. They're both like full-time jobs, right? Especially now when you don't have a family support system. And so, and I talked about this extensively. A lot of people loved that video years ago. So it's only like 20 minutes long. I think I made it I made it available for the members because I had to privatize all my videos when YouTube was going on a tear, which I could just probably, all those videos could just be made public or at least go to the members. I don't know. That doesn't matter. But, being feminist isn't being pro-women. It's feminist movement is anti-women because, celebrating motherhood, which is the one thing that women can do that men can't. Men, I don't think there's very many things that men can do. Standing up and peeing, I don't. And, certainly not equivalent to, birthing a baby. But they've minimized motherhood, and feminists have done that, which is really a misogynistic act. This was because somebody said that I was misogynistic, and I'm like, all right, if you're a feminist, that's what you think, but feminism was never a pro-woman. It was something that was dreamed up by the CIA. It's been a psychological operation, and it hasn't benefited women. But anyways, so some person wrote right below that, unsubscribed, you are clueless to justify Michael Jackson. He's 100% pedophile. Open your eyes. So is this person thinking I was Candace Owens? Because I literally said this is something I don't agree. Candace Owens said that Michael Jackson was set up, which I believe, on a financial level, they took all his shit, right? These people that she said, that come in and these handlers that come in when you get big and popular, And I believe that to be true. But I totally believe he was a pedo because there's a video in which, as weird as he was, somebody I knew, I think it was one of my relatives, maybe my brother-in-law, said that he knew somebody who met Michael Jackson before he became really popular. He was still, the Jackson, right after the Jackson 5 days. And Michael Jackson was at a party, and everyone thought he was really weird. And he was telling everybody how his parents abused him and gave him female hormones to keep his voice high, like a castrata. And so, and there was a lot of evidence about him. He talked about his dad being really abusive and beating the shit out of the kids. So, there was that. But Michael Jackson did an interview where he was defending sleeping with little boys, bring them into his bed and sleeping with them. It's like a 60 Minutes interview. We're fucking weird. You can find that interview and then all the other evidence that's there. But I said that in the fucking video, and this person's accusing me of, Candace Owens is the one who said I played the clip. But I'm like, people are just so fucking stupid, right? I mean, they don't have the ability to differentiate or know what's being said. Like, I see this all the time where people make comments, and I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? Okay, but here are the ones that I want to get to. These were the other day. Specifically, I think this one. So this person writes, there's a video called Kaboom, Trump is minted, half shekelled, and Epstein again. Patel honeypot. And the person writes, I talked about this in terms of God and all these things. It's presented in the Old Testament. God is jealous because he is love and holy, fully committed to you living a holy life, which is the only life worth living. If you keep living a life with sin, then he gets sad and upset. You are losing your full potential to what you are created to be. Jesus showed us the Father. He and the Father don't condemn because you condemn yourself. We reap what is sown. Well, you haven't read the fucking Bible, dipshit. Because the God is constantly punishing Moses and the people for worshiping other gods. And being jealous is not a form of love. Being jealous isn't, the feeling of jealousy, right? The feeling of jealousy is not a higher developed feeling. It's not it's something of possessiveness. It has nothing to do with love. God gave everybody, the creator, the creation that exists, the idea of the creation, the thought that created the universe, gave souls an individual, in terms of our being in this simulation, being a human being, where there are choices. When you're a disembodied soul, you don't really have choices, and you don't have senses. So you can make choices as a soul, but they're not as incentivized to do the wrong thing because there's no pleasure involved, or there's no physical world. There's nothing twisted in your, in an etheric world. Like, there are souls that can go rogue, but this idea that Satan was cast out of heaven is a silly idea because it's being in a physical body that gives you all these wrong choices, right? So, when you're a physical body, you have the physical senses, you have pleasure and pain, and you have all these various experiences and things you can do. And it's gross, it's heavy, like it's a physical nature. But you remove your soul from that situation, and your soul isn't going to want to drink alcohol because you don't feel shit. Your soul doesn't have, these things, and not just doesn't have a brain and a physical mind the same way when you're disembodied soul. So you don't have the ability to choose the same way, right? So it's on planet Earth where you can deviate the most. And you have freedom of choice to do that, and God has given you that. And God doesn't have to be jealous. God is God, right? There's everything comes from God. And God wouldn't punish you because there's divinity within you. There's God in you. God's not going to punish himself. God's a part of the whole thing. So there's no punishment. The Old Testament just is a shitty book. It doesn't understand the true nature of divinity. That God would be jealous. Hey, you guys are worshiping. The reason that God is jealous in the Old Testament is because the pieces of shit that controlled that religion didn't want people going back and worshiping Baal and worshiping these fucking, idols and this other stuff. So they said, hey, if you worship these idols, see, look at this guy, he worshiped these idols and God fucking cut off his dick, right? Or whatever it is, right? God punished him. Same thing with circumcision. These people who controlled it wanted everyone to be circumcised for whatever reason. And so he said, oh, if you don't get circumcised, like Moses didn't want to circumcise his son and God was going to kill him. Right? It's them. It's not real fucking, isn't word of God. It's people saying, oh, yeah, this is what God did. It's like, if you ever seen that movie, Ricky Gervais's movie, The Invention of Lying. It's a world that no one knows how to lie, and this one guy Ricky Gervais learns how to lie. And he just starts making shit up. And everybody believes him because nobody lies. And he becomes a divine, like everyone thinks he's God because he just tells everyone I'm God, right? And so, that's what the Bible is. Like, it's not real God, especially the Old Testament. It's people who are trying to control, in some cases, just deviant, shitty people. And so they're trying to explain to them not to do bad shit or God's going to kill them or punish them because that's all they know. And so it's a very remedial book written for remedial people. And God isn't jealous because why would God be jealous of anything? God doesn't have a competition. God is everything and in everything, and all of creation comes from God. Like what like there's not like he's got a younger brother or something who gets something like that. He's got, some competition. There's no competition. There's no reason to be jealous. And God is love, and love isn't jealous, right? You are taking God's name in vain and slandering him. That was a follow-up comment after the person wrote the first comment. Really hard to watch these videos when you stop every 3 seconds to babble. Stop. Again, this isn't just for you. Like, this is not like your thing. Like, it's like you've ordered some food and you're sending it back to the kitchen because it's not cooked the way you want it, right? Like, this isn't specifically made for you. This is there's like other people. And these other people have preferences and they like things a certain way. And those are the people who watch these videos because they, get something out of them and they enjoy it. If they don't, they leave and they go somewhere else. And they don't need to tell me because that's fine. It's cool. I'm cool with it, right? But it's not just for you. You kind of realize that you're like, it isn't like we're all, you're like in, one was called Ed TV. This is when reality TV was becoming a thing. And the other was called The Truman Show. And Ed TV, the guy decided to film his, they elected some guy to film his life 24 hours a day. And people watched it. I think it starred Matthew McConaughey. And then there was a Truman Show where the guy grew up in a TV studio and his wife was an actor and everyone else was an actor. And you're not in that. Like, we actually are real people. Everyone else, we're not just all like actors and you're the only real person, right? Like there's more of us. There's like 7 billion, almost 8 billion of us. And so, yeah. And so this person writes, I'm not defending Trump, but in reference to the emails, the metadata could be confirmed. I've written, this is Kaboom, Trump has minted half shekel. This was emails about him and written by Jeffrey Epstein. This wasn't about the one with Bill Clinton. This is the video before that. I'm not defending Trump, but the reference to the emails, the metadata should be confirmed. I'm writing contemporaneous reports all the time. The nature of these writings are highly self-serving. I say that this is the case with Epstein emails. Unless the emails are authenticated, what guarantee is that the Epstein was even... this is a really stupid comment because what more do you need to know to understand that Trump is a piece of shit and he had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and he certainly knew what Jeffrey Epstein kind of person he was and all of it. Like I said in this video, I read the comment and there's just a wealth of information out there that Trump's a piece of shit. And so there's no reason to of course the emails, everything out there is bullshit, right? Or potential bullshit. There's no real truth, not in this not in the internet, not in the fucking media, not in the show. There's no, it's all just layers of deception and, You know, the people who are telling the lies don't even know that they're lies, right? The people who are lying, you know, are so, I think I said this in a recent video. I meant to say it if I hadn't. You know, the people who are doing the lying, they lie so much and they lie to themselves and like it's all, they believe their own lies and they don't even know. They're so used to spinning and they've lost grasp of the truth, which everybody has a long time ago. Everybody's been indoctrinated, so you already have a baseline of just bullshit stuff, right? You know, things that you were told when you were a kid, things that you believed when you believed everything your parents or your older brother said. You grow up thinking something, and then you realize, oh my God, that was fucking weird and not true at all, right? Like we all have a baseline of lies. So getting to the truth, which I said over and over again, it can't happen. You know, not in that way. Not, you know, you can get to the divine truth, which is more about feeling and more about, you know, your internal experience that isn't connected to this world. It's, you know, this world is an illusionary lie anyway. It's Maya. It's in Sanskrit. It's Maya, right? In Sanskrit, this world is called Maya, which means illusion, because it's not, your soul is what you really are, and it's all illusionary. So you're not going to get to the truth. It's just fucking silly. There's one thing I want to add to the sleeping part earlier that I was talking about. You know, when I was in India, there was a guy named Sanskrit Kanan, and he was a really saintly person that did the Sajmarg meditation. And he was, according to Master Charji, the third master, he was the foremost scholar. He was a professor of Sanskrit, which is a lost language, which is supposed to be a spiritual language. You know, the original language, it's like the original language, it's divine. You know, the one that's the most closest to, you know, divine, like a divine language, to divinity. And there's a part of the Mahabharata called the Bhagavad Gita, which there's this character named, there's a lot of weird shit in the Mahabharata. You know, Krishna's manipulative and, you know, there's a lot of shit that Krishna does that isn't cool. And, you know, some Indian guy who lived in America for a while was saying, you know, the Mahabharata is confusing because there's a lot of shit in there that Krishna does that isn't cool, right? And not just the whole story. It's older than the Bible, so it could be distorted, but I think there's less distortion, but some of it is just, you know. And then there's this character named Bhishma, whose father wanted to bang some, you know, princess or some girl. And the girl says, well, I'll let you sleep with me if you have your son renounce, I'll marry you if you have your son renounce his claim to the throne. And Bhishma does that. And then she's like, well, that's not enough. I don't want any of his kids coming in and stealing. You know, this is a real, like, manipulative bitch, right? I don't want him stealing. And Bhishma's like the best. He's like probably the best character in the book. He's just, you know, very serving and just all these things. You know, the laws of Dharma, which he was trying to uphold as they're crumbling because, you know, it's about to be the Kali Yuga and the world that we have now. You know, and they used to do all this stuff. And they live for a long time, like thousands of years. And she goes, I don't want the guy having sex. I don't want him ever getting married. So I want him to take a vow of celibacy. And so he takes the vow, and Bhishma means the one who took the terrible vow, right? The one who took the terrible vow. And Bhishma would have been like the best king. He just would have been like, you know, an ideal king. But because his dad was like this weird horny fuck that couldn't, you know, I mean, just, you know, there's no way he should have, I mean, he loved his son, but he was just a, you know, whatever. And this manipulative girl, and they had a bunch of shitty kids, and they caused the whole Mahabharata. And Bhishma's always cleaning up the mess of these you know, his step siblings, you know, for years. And at the end of the thing, there's all this prophecy about him and how he has to die. And Arjuna, who is his, you know, Arjuna loves the guy, but he has to kill him because he's on the opposite side. And Arjuna, like, pierces him with like 100 arrows. And Bhishma falls over on the tips of the arrows. And the arrows are going through his body. And he's laying there like 1.5 feet off the ground. He's, you know, lived kind of a miserable life. And he's like, Krishna comes up to him. He's like, what the fuck, right? Jesus Christ, can I just fucking die already? Like, I just want to leave this miserable freaking planet. And, you know, he's on the wrong side because of all these, dharmic rules and shit. He doesn't even want to fight for his side because he's fighting for the pieces of shit cousins of the Pandavas who are the heroes. But while he's laying there, the guy who's the eldest son of the good guys comes up, and he gives him this discourse, which is how to be a good leader, how to be a good human being. He just, this spiritual teaching. And it's called the Bhagavad Gita. It's a book within a book. And it's a separate book that, they read and talks about how to live life as a spiritual person. And this guy, Sanskrit Kanan, used to read a chapter of it in Sanskrit, and then he'd explain it in English. And when he read the Sanskrit, he was like, it was like a humming kind of thing. And I went to it like 3 times, and every time I went out. Like I just lost consciousness, and I went to the spiritual state. Now this guy Sanskrit Kanan is a preceptor, but it was like amazing. I was like, oh my God, this is like I wake up refreshed, and I just was like I couldn't make it through the whole thing. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse. And the ascension, everyone have a blessed day, and be grateful.